We're going to need your help. You know, you've been here before. You know, it's an important night. It's our 10th anniversary and everyone's really excited. So with your help, we can get through the program and then we can get back to everyone can have a great time together. I want to welcome you on behalf of the Hall of Fame Committee to our 10th annual Hall of Fame. Tonight isn't an induction, you know, that we did things a little differently. We brought back everyone who is in the Hall of Fame or who loves coming here to hear about the athletes. So I want to introduce our committee to you first. Our president, Dave, will you please stand up? David Laube. I'm John Cosgrove, I'm the vice president. The person who, since the beginning, has held everything together here and does so much hard work for us, Kathy Schofield. Our secretary from the class of 1953, Bill O'Hay. From the class of 1993, Matt Biello. From the class of 67, Craig Buxar. From the class of 81, Karen Van Olden Coles. From 1967, John Donahue. 1980, Steve Ditking. Our founder and the guy who brought us all together to form this Hall of Fame from 1974, John Roddy Yu. Roddy? From class of 75, John Rule. From the class of 70, Jack Smithlin. Also from the class of 70, Sue Gershberg Smithlin. And from the class of 77, Liz Spear. Liz Papa Spear. I'd also like to introduce, well, we have one Board of Ed member here tonight, Ron Barbarulo. Will you please stand, Ron? And unfortunately, our representative from the Board of Ed, Cindy Jo Quackenbush, was involved in a car accident today. She's doing okay. She was at the induction this morning, but we wish her well and thank her for all her support because she's a big supporter of Hall of Fame. At this time, I'd like to call up Bill O'Hay, our secretary, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Bill? Captain Bill O'Hay, by the way, United States Navy.
Folks, I know you're cheering for me. Prior to doing our Pledge of Allegiance, I'd like to read something that's entitled The Pledge of Allegiance, written by Senator John McCain. And the good senator wrote the following. As you may know, I spent 5.5 years as a prisoner of war in Vietnam. In the early years of imprisonment, the NVA kept us in solitary confinement or 2 to 3 to a cell. In 1971, the NVA moved us from these conditions of isolation into large rooms with as many as 30 to 40 men a room. This was, as you can imagine, a wonderful change. It was a direct result of the efforts of millions of Americans on behalf of a few hundred POWs 10,000 miles from home. One of the men who was in my room was a young man named Mike Christian. Mike came from a small town near Selma, Alabama. He didn't wear a pair of shoes until he was 13 years old. At 17, he enlisted in the U.S. Navy. He later earned a commission by going to officer training school. Then he became a naval flight officer and was shot down and captured in 1967. Mike had a keen and deep appreciation of the opportunities this country and our military provided for people who want to work and want to succeed. As part of the change in treatment, the Vietnamese allowed some prisoners to receive packages from home. And some of these packages were handcrafts, scarves, other items of clothing. Mike got himself a bamboo needle. Over a period of a couple of months, he created an American flag and sewed it on the inside of his shirt. Every afternoon, before we had a bowl of soup, we would hang Mike's shirt on the wall of the cell and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I know the Pledge of Allegiance may not seem the most important part of our day now, but I can assure you that in that stark cell, it was indeed the most important and meaningful event. One day, the Vietnamese researched our cell, as they did periodically, and discovered Mike's shirt with the flag sewn inside and removed it. That evening, they returned, opened the door of the cell, and for the benefit of all us, beat Mike severely for the next couple of hours. Then they opened the door of the cell, threw him in. We cleaned him up as well as we could. The cell in which we lived had a concrete slab in the middle on which we slept. 4 naked light bulbs hung in each corner of the room. As I said, we tried to clean up Mike as well as we could. After the excitement died down, I looked in the corner of the room, and sitting there beneath that dim light bulb was a piece of red cloth, another shirt, and his bamboo needle was my friend Mike Christian. He was sitting there with his eyes squinting, almost shut, from the beating he had received. He was not making the flag because it made Mike feel any better. He was making the flag because he knew how important it was to us to be able to pledge our allegiance to our flag and country. So the next time you say the Pledge of Allegiance, you must never forget the sacrifice and courage that thousands of Americans have made to build our nation and promote freedom around the world. You must remember our duty, our honor, and our country. Thank you. Would you please rise now?
Thank you. So for those of you who weren't at this morning's festivities where we pretty much rededicated the Hall of Fame, what happened is I want to thank the class of 1959 football team. Where are you guys? Please raise your hand. They donated the new displays, and our committee worked really hard, led by our president, Dave Laube, and we have all the new memorabilia in the case, and the hall looks tremendous, and now the flat screen TV is mounted so that the kids can see, and the legacy will live on. So 10 years ago, this all started as a dream. It had been spoke about for many years, and finally a group of us got together, led by Roddy Hughes. Roddy, where are you? Raise your hand, Roddy. We went to the administration and asked for support. It was lukewarm, to be honest. And then when 225 people attended the dinner, they called us into the office the next week. And the rest has been history. And it's been a great run. Of course, Kathy, we want to thank Kathy again because she has done so much. And our President Dave Laube, who took on the presidency and has done a tremendous job for a lot of effort into doing it. So as we go through tonight, we have some great speakers here that are lined up that are, most of them are Fairlawn icons, all of them are Fairlawn icons, and all have done different things for Fairlawn. But the first speaker tonight I'd like to call up is our president, Dave Laube, class of 1979, played football at Penn State and was a great standout football player as well as a discus thrower in his senior year at Fairlawn High School. So Dave, come on up.
Thanks, John. First of all, as president, I'd like to thank everybody for... Stand over there. Thank you. Whatever you say. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. We appreciate the fact that you all support us in what we are trying to do at the Hall of Fame. For me, it's been exciting because I have found out a lot about people in this room that I didn't know about through my research. And I'm thankful that I was able to research and find some of you and be able to be part of the committee that installed you into the Hall of Fame. You were the people that gave generations the thoughts, the abilities to think, well, if they were that good, maybe I can be pretty good. And one of the people, in particular, growing through high school, that I was barraged with every day by Joe Hausman was Bruce Jankowski. There was a banner up on the old gym, and it was the football championship banner. And every day I would look at that, and I would think about Bruce Jankowski. This guy was a legend. This guy was 7 foot tall, weighed 400 pounds, could run the 50 in 3 seconds. I mean, this guy, he had it all. He was what everybody longed to be, at least what I longed to be. And almost 40 years later, I got the opportunity to meet the person that made me want to succeed at Fairlawn. And I find out he's this tall. I'm like, come on, you know. And then I thought about it for a second. And Heavenly Father, if you believe that way, and I do, gifted me, especially in my scholastic years, unfortunately in adult years, great size, and back then, great strength. I was able to do things that a lot of my peers couldn't do, like throw a metal ball 64 feet, or throw a wooden discus 180 feet. I could run over 6 or 7 people so that Chris Finn could run the wrong way, run into my backside and get tackled. Had Chris kept his head up and gone to the right, we would have beaten Clifton handily my senior year instead of having to sweat the game out. So I found out that most of the real Fairlawn athletes are guys who were short in stature, but whose hearts were so big they couldn't be contained in their bodies because they exuded what Fairlawn was all about every time they got on the field, every time they got on a mat, every time they got on a basketball court, male or female. And to be able to be put into a category of athletes like that, hair is standing up on the back of my neck again, because that's how I feel every time I think about this Hall of Fame. There are outstanding, wonderful people. There is a history out there that our young people need to know about, need to see, need to visualize, need to be part of, to hopefully give them a direction. I want to be like. I want to be better than. That's what I had. That's what I did. That's what I used. And fortunately, I'm able to be with all of the wonderful people that are inducted in our Hall of Fame. So I thank you for your contributions. I thank you for being teammates of mine. Frankie wouldn't let me roll around with him on the wrestling mat once I started winning, but that's okay. But just everybody, thank you so much. It's more than a pleasure, and it's an honor for me to be in this room with all of you people. Thank you so much. I hope that you can continue to help us in our endeavors. One thing as president I have to say, next year we will have our induction ceremony, and then after that it's going to be every 2 years. So it won't be every year after that, it'll be every 2 years. But next year, we will be back here, we will have an induction ceremony, and then we'll have other people up here, and they'll be able to talk to you about their experiences here at Fairlawn. So again, thank you so much. I appreciate it. God bless you.
Thank you, Dave. Our next speaker, if you looked at those teams that are in the Hall of Fame, all those wrestling teams, many of them, this coach was the reason why. He probably, you know, has been known as one of the greatest coaches in wrestling history in the state of New Jersey. He came from Fairlawn, he's from a Fairlawn family, and today he serves as a vice principal at Fairlawn High School. Coach Frank Wadin. Frank, come on up.
It's kind of tough to follow Dave. That was a great speech, Dave. I'd like to say welcome to the teammates, coaches, athletes, and fellow cutters through the generations. I'd like to say that Jim Marcella, who is our principal of the high school, was planning to attend tonight, but couldn't make it because he had a family commitment. It's a great thing the Hall of Fame committee does every year after year, this dinner, and they maintain the hall. I think they all deserve another round of applause for their actions, because everyone involved has dedicated a lot of time. I am starting my 31st year at the high school. I was 20 years the head wrestling coach. I currently serve as an assistant principal. And for those of you that know him, I have Fred Crowder's job. So, I currently do help out with the all sports wrestling program. And last year we started the middle school wrestling program. We are recognized by the Board of Education, but we have to fundraise to meet our expenses. So here's my shameless plug. In the back, there are flyers if you wish to donate anything to the middle school wrestling program. We're hoping this will be the seed that will grow and develop into middle school, every sport involved in the middle school. So if you can donate anything, I would appreciate it. I continue to live in Fairlawn. I bought my parents' house, so I'm a real townie. This is a great place to live and to have your children go through school. My son is a 7th grader at TJ Middle School, and even though the demographics are changing a bit, it's still a great town to live. Our school system academically is one of the best in Bergen County and the state of New Jersey. We were just ranked in the top 1.5% of high schools in the nation by Newsweek magazine. Out of 27,000 high schools in the nation, Fairlawn came in at 425. Now, when I was asked and honored to come up here and speak, they were like, think of something funny. And I ran a lot of memories of coaching through my head. And I was like, no, that's not appropriate. That's not appropriate. The statute of limitation hasn't run out on that one yet. So I would just like to say the 20 years I did coach at the high school are some of the best times of my life. I have fond memories of it. All the athletes that are here that I had the pleasure to coach, I keep them in high regards. And even coaching the little kids is a lot of fun. I just look at pictures of myself from the 80s and stuff. I'm like, is that really me? And even when I used to compete in high school and college, I look at pictures and it seems like a different person. But in closing, I'd like to say thank you for letting me to speak and listening to me, and go Cutters.
Next up, we have a member of our committee, also a member of the hall, coach softball, coach various sports at Fairlawn. He gives us a lot of input, always known for saying what's on his mind. He said that to a lot of principals at Fairlawn High School over the years. But welcome Coach Jack Smithlin. Come on up, Jack.
Thought I was going fourth, so I'm not mentally prepared for this. But one of the things that I found, first of all, I also would like to thank everyone for coming. When the committee decided to do this, when they decided to do this reunion, I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was a great idea. And the reason being is that everybody coming back gets to meet the greatest athletes, coaches, and teams that ever played at Fairlawn High School. And when I look out, I see it all. In fact, just yesterday I had the opportunity to play golf with 7 other fantastic, unbelievable people. In fact, on our way there, I got to sit alongside Ronnie Fagan, and I got to talk baseball. And as soon as he got in the car, I started picking his brain like you couldn't believe. And he talked, and we talked, and we talked about hitting, and we talked about the mental game. And the funny thing about it is, I missed 2 actually entrances to Route 80, and got to our golf a little bit late, but I did get onto Route 80 up in Parsippany, but it was the best talk I ever had. Last night was fantastic. Last night, one of the things about the icebreakers on Friday nights is that it kind of brings you back. And this is all about what this committee has done, what the Hall of Fame has meant to me. I got to see a friend of mine that I hadn't seen in years and years, and he's been ill, he hasn't been healthy, but you know what, like he said last night, he's still here. In fact, when I was a kid, we went to Catholic school together, and my dad used to pay him $0.25 a day to keep me on the bus. And that didn't last too long. He actually, at the end of the week, went back, gave my father all the money. He says, "No way, I'm not doing this job." And that was Charlie Crane. And Charlie, I love you. Love you too, Charles. This morning, even better. Dave kind of like bursted my bubble a little bit. But at the breakfast this morning, I got to meet a hero of mine from when I was 12, 13, 14, 17, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 64 years old. He's still a hero of mine. And like David said, the greatest thing in the world is to walk down that hall and see the pictures of all those great athletes. And I'm going to say that I got to actually meet this person, even though he babysat me one day. He doesn't remember that, but we were playing in the street, and he and Chucky DePalma and Gerisi and some great ball players in the past, John Donahue, they were all beating the crap out of me every day like they did. And my father was taking off, and he yelled, "Hey, can you guys watch him?" And Bruce Jankowski says, "Yeah, we got him, Mr. Smithlin, don't worry." He said, "Hey, go play on Maple Avenue. Try to walk down that white line." But he used to hang out at the pool, throwing me off the raft. But, Bruce, you've been a hero of mine, seriously, my whole life. And like Dave said, there's nothing better than seeing you up on the wall. But watching you play as a junior cutter football player, we used to get in free every day, every game. It was like men against boys. And then there was the Ridgewood game, and I don't like bringing that up in your senior year. I'm very upset with you guys about that, because I cried for 3 days. But when you told me the story about what you guys did, crying meant really absolutely nothing. Then we had my family. God, my family, that's a lot of background in sports. My 2 sons, excellent athletes. One pursued it, one did not. Both all-league, all-conference, all-county honors in track, soccer, football, baseball. Alex was a great athlete, but he decided to go make money. Zach pursued it and became a pro baseball player for 8 years, playing with the Cardinals, the Padres, and actually the Jackals, retiring his number a few years back. My wife, of 20 years coaching at Fairlawn High School, a college gymnast. She also was Bergen, a lot of people don't know this, she was Bergen County Coach of the Year 2 times. Her nemesis was Ridgewood. Fairlawn competed against Ridgewood in gymnastics every year, and they just happened to be #1 in the state every single year. So did she ever win a championship? No. Did she give them a run for their money? Yes, she did. And that was my wife. In my lifetime, I had 3 mentors, all right, all athletes. One, my Uncle Bill, which was a high school football coach at Paramus High School, who took over for, I believe, Bauer, and he was a track coach, Bill Dara. My second mentor was probably one of my closest friends in my later years of coaching. And when I was coaching here at F.L.H.S. High School, I did have a lot of problems, all right? And the reason is that as much as I don't like cheating, I did bend the rules a little bit. In fact, one of the greatest things I've ever learned was from one of our coaches here at F.L.H.S. High School, is that when they told you not to practice, practice anyway. Don't worry, they don't mean it. So we used to sneak into the C gym, because this coach taught me this trick about keeping the window open. And on Easter morning, one morning, I hid 16 girls with my assistant coach down to do some bunting and fielding. And one of them went to the coach's room to get a film that we wanted to watch. And she said, "Coach, something's wrong here. There's like red lights outside." I said, "Don't worry about it." She goes, "No, seriously." So I went. I looked outside. I jumped up on the radiator because I was born short, Dave. And I looked outside, and there were two policemen with sawed-off shotguns pointing at my head. I said, "Whoa!" And they said, "Come on out." "Oh, Coach Smithlin, what are you doing there?" I said, "We're practicing. Come on out." So 16 girls had to go through the window. But that was a great practice that night, okay? We had, when I look around, I had the honor of coaching with some great coaches. I coached with Harvey Egan. He was my assistant. Actually, he was the varsity softball, and I was JV, and we flip-flopped. And he coached with me. He was my assistant for a year or two. I had the honor of coaching with Bill Scarnati. He was my assistant. In fact, when I did get fired from Fairlawn, he actually took over for me. And actually, he did not take over for me. I'm sorry. He would not do it, and he quit. And he went to baseball. And I had Mike Albert, our athletic director, head football coach, head baseball coach of many years. He was my assistant for a few years. In fact, he took over for me when I got thrown out of a softball game. He lost one and he won one, so it's a wash. And then I had the honor of coaching with probably one of the best coaches in the history of F.L.H.S. High School. And in my opinion, he is the best coach to ever coach at this school. And that was Frank Wadin. I watched Frank coach. I learned things. Don't cut me off. I'm on. I got the stage. I'm talking. They were quick. But I had the honor of coaching with him and watching the greatest wrestlers in F.L.H.S. history wrestle in the 80s and 90s. And then I had my career. My career was a coaching career that wanted to start out at Fairlawn, but there wasn't an opening. So when I finally got that chance to take it, I was told that I was going to coach soccer. So I left Pope Pius High School, and when I took the job, they told me it was the female job. And I said, should I do this? I decided to do it, and it was the best thing that I ever did. I just want to once again thank everybody for coming. I have some of my players from my 95-96 team here, Jamie, Sarah, and Jackie, and I appreciate them coming. And I hope that we all have a great evening tonight, and please, like Dave said, keep doing what you can possibly do to support this program, because it's one of the best things that's ever happened. Thank you so much.
So we can just bear with me for a little while longer. The next speaker is Coach Dave Pulley, who I want to thank him, came down from Connecticut tonight to be with us here. I believe he was the first coach of lacrosse in Fairlawn back in 1962. Brought it here, and he's recognized as a great coach, and we're really happy to have him here tonight. Dave?
With my mouth full.
All right.
All right. I'd like to thank everybody also for this opportunity to address you. I'd like to first begin by saying I had a couple phone calls this last week to a couple inductees, Dave Sim and Dick Camp, both of whom are fighting the greatest battles of their lives. But they're both in great spirits, and prospects look pretty good at the moment. I'd like to thank the committee for inviting me again, and the many tireless workers that are on that committee, maybe excepting one. But there's one person who certainly needs to be recognized again so often. That's Catherine. She's been with that committee for 10 years and done a wonderful job. Thank you, Catherine. Stealing from Bob Hope, he said, the biggest lie I tell myself is I don't need to write it down. I'll remember it. Well, I've reached the point where I've got to write things down. I can't be extemporaneous like these gentlemen before me. Also, bear in mind that when I started playing football at Fairlawn, we wore leather helmets. That accounts for something. But also, in the East Rutherford game, I dove for a guy on a punt return. Bing, everything went black. A few minutes later, when I came to, I was on the sidelines. Doc Gurney was there, and Bennett was saying, "Is he ready to go back in? Is he ready to go back in?" Yeah, and we did, back in the seconds. Considering the present level of tolerance of people hitting quarterbacks and other football players and the professionals nowadays, I wonder if I might have some legal standing there. But of course, it never really bothered me. But hopefully my little memory jog down this lane, which I originally was going to entitle Gifts and Goofs, but then I didn't want to embarrass some of my former teachers who might have passed me when they shouldn't have. But basically, what I'm trying to get across in my little presentation is that I provide an understanding of my love for Fairlawn High School. My good fortune began at an early age. We began when we used to sneak under the rope and canvas barriers that were around the football fields to see the football games at night. And they used to have the night lights up on ladders, which fell later on one time. But it was great to see Butch Krause, and Van Olden, and Van Splinter, and Nagel, and Weil. And the greatest thing was, which was one of the first gifts, was we never got caught. I guess we were pretty good, pretty fast. When my class time arrived to attend Fairlawn High School, we were on double session. And our grade faced 5 years of double session. It was until our senior year where we finally got back to normal times. But that first year meant no freshman football. So I asked myself, why am I here? But I soon realized there were other reasons for attending high school. One of which was a cute little brunette who was in my homeroom. And Mabel Lougheed, who took pity on me in the 8th grade and accepted to go on a date on the gawky Radburn kid. And I never let go. 9 years later, Reverend Camp Sr. made things legal. But on my first day of football practice as a sophomore, it was a shock. They yelled at me. And not only that, I had dreams of being a scoring machine. But there were a few obstacles. Hank Pilot, Joe St. McCloskey, Dick Camp, and another skinny redhead named Dave Sim. No problem. I'll be an end. 1 hour later, Coach Bennett told me to go over and work with the centers. I said, I'm going to play half of every game with my head between my legs? This guy's got to be out of his mind. In retrospect, however, I should have tried blocking back. Because there was only 3 stumpy little slow guys playing in that position. I could have made that position. But fortunately, my worries were taken care of by Ed Rahuba, who was a very fine center, and he started, but I managed to break in as a defensive back that first year. Maybe later on, when Coach Bennett switched me to center, I began to realize, well, maybe he wasn't so dumb after all, a few years later. Because things turned out pretty good playing center. I will not bore you with the rest of my soft athletic experience except to say I'm certain, and Bill O'Hay might agree with me for once, we had the worst basketball team in Fairlawn High School history. And I was the all-star of that worst team. I couldn't understand that you couldn't hit people in basketball. And once I fouled out in the first half. But anyway, it was great sport, though, in those winter years to go watch the wrestling teams. Because they won. And not only that, it was a show to watch Coach Bennett banging on the radiator there when somebody was in a pinning position. And also at away meets, I understand there was a pretty good brawl down in the Teaneck after a wrestling meet. That's only rumor. The athletic successes of the following 2 years was a blessing in itself. The classes of 53 and 54 were very strong. But perhaps the turning point occurred during the opening football loss to Eastside. Mr. Sasso released his baseball phenomenon, Dave Sim, to play football and carry the ball. Prior to that, he was strictly a kicker. What a difference that made. Because you had Sim at the tailback, we had Dick Camp at the fullback, and we had Frankie Cincholi at the wingback. Teams could not defense this. And the next game was 40-0 over Hawthorne. Football was obviously my key to my future. Rutgers and a naval career followed as other blessings followed. I was hired to teach and coach at Fairlawn in '61. I must confess now, by paraphrasing another Bob Hope comment, coaching was my profession. Teaching paid the bills. In fact, my master's thesis was written on why a biology teacher should not be a football coach. But it was great working with a real gentleman, Ed Sheehy. Worked with him for 5 years until he passed away, unfortunately. But he was very receptive to young coaches' ideas, such as a no-huddle offense, putting an end over. In fact, when we played Ridgewood one year, we put the end over in on against Ridgewood. They never adapted to it for the entire game. I was staying on top of the press box on the phones, run the end over, run the end over. And the game turned out pretty good. There was also another aspect of that, those years of being an assistant coach, and that was we were one of the forerunners of Spygate. Because I used to scout with an 8mm camera. Now, I'm not certain how many rules we broke doing that, but it had its advantages. But during those years, the program began to improve slowly, and we saw in the classes of 65, 66, and 67, there was some talent. But the greatest blessing was Verge Sasso approving my request to start lacrosse. It was fantastic fun to start at ground zero. We had one fellow on the team. We had 21 kids out that first year. And we had one fellow who had any idea what lacrosse was about. And that was because his sister married a fellow who played at Syracuse, who eventually went to become the head coach of Syracuse, Roy Simmons. But anyway, that year, where Montclair and Fairlawn were the first two public schools in the state of New Jersey to start the sport, we were 1-1-1 with Montclair. We lost the first one, we won the second one, and we tied the third one when both he and I, the other coach, agreed, let's go home happy. So we were 1-1-1. But from that little acorn, great things grew. Finally, they got some good coaches in, and they produced wonderful records in lacrosse in the following years. I also would notice in the video screen that there's no photos of the early lacrosse teams. They didn't have cameras in those days. It was a long time ago. At the end of that 66, 67 season, I made a decision to leave Farallon, which may have been a bad decision, but it turned out to be good. As I've learned in later years, when one door closes, many times another door opens, and it did for me. At Lakeland, Bloomfield, Franklin Marshall College, and then at West Morris High School. It was 7 years after leaving that I was given an opportunity to return to Farallon as the head football coach. However, I chose not to do that. I chose to go to West Morris as an athletic director. I didn't have to endure the strange bounces of footballs and the gentle reminders that parents always had on why their son should be playing. You got lots of help on the coaching sidelines. It was a no-brainer. However, with the onset of Title IX and the surge of girls' sports, being an AD at a high school in those years was no picnic. Money and gym time were the big problems, especially gym time. The men's coaches were not really accepting the fact that they had a share of the gym. But times changed and great improvements were made. With all career and address changes I've made, I've learned that, as I say, one door closes, another door opens. At Farallon High School, my earliest lesson was when knocked down, get up. It's been a wonderful trip. I've been blessed with a wonderful bride, 3 children, 4 grandchildren. We've played, worked, socialized with many wonderful people in Farallon and other schools. But especially during my 11 years as a student, coach, and teacher at Farallon High School, what a blessing.
2 years ago and 2 weeks ago, I started teaching at Farallon High School. The nice thing about going to college is that you think you're on your own and you're smart, and you go there and you're in a protective environment so you can make all the mistakes you want. And I'm not sure it's what you got out of the classroom as much as you got of being protected and growing up. So when I came to Farallon, I knew how smart I was, except there was another 4 or 5 years of being protected by quality people while I made all the mistakes in the world and they worked with me. Bert Sasso and Dan Rothermel were fine individuals and were very good at what they did. And you get to see how good they were by going to other schools and having other principals and other athletics that couldn't touch them. They were both excellent. Monty Weed, what he did with the recreation program was way ahead of his time. And we were good at lacrosse because they let us do the extra, and it was really amazing that they let one 25-year-old guy go with 20 lacrosse players to Colorado without airline tickets, which is true. We had one. That was mine. Everybody else was going, you stand by. We all got on the same plane going and got on the same plane coming back. And I think if you talk to the kids from the class of 1970, it probably could have been the highlight of their athletic career, a great experience. We never could have done that unless the school had faith in us. We earned the money to go. We stayed at the Air Force Academy. They charges $3 a day for room and meals. We played their freshman team. We had a great experience. More than anything, it wasn't the wins that counted. I think it was the love that we developed for each other and the love that we developed for lacrosse. Today we have Leopold, Wexler, Blakely, both Montabanos, Poor, Donahue, Stu Sherman and Craig Bucksaw here, coming from Florida, coming from Connecticut, traveling here, and it has to be because of the experience they had. Sasso, Raw the Mill, and Monty Weed changed so many people's lives by letting us go off and do our thing. I remember going to Syracuse. We went up to Syracuse, which is a great lacrosse area. After we beat the Syracuse freshmen, we went back to the fraternity house we were staying at, and somehow the team disappeared. The fraternity brothers told me we were down at the track bar. The drinking age, I think, in New Jersey at the time was 21. I think happened, Coach. It happened. And I got very upset. I made them run around the block at 11 o'clock at night in full uniform. And what they didn't tell me that was on the other side of the block, they had a case over there too, so when they went around, they indulged. That's true. I had one young man who was a great athlete who said to me on the way back, "Coach, why are you mad at me? I'm legal in this state. I'm 19 years old." And he's here tonight, and I'm not sure I had an answer for him, but I knew it was the wrong thing for him to be drinking on their trip. We had great times. A lot of people went on to play college lacrosse and become All-Americans and play in the North-South games, and a lot of people are still coaching both boys and girls lacrosse and are still involved in it. I was lucky that I learned so much here. I was lucky that I dealt with quality people. Frank Bennett, who everybody said was rough and tough, was probably the nicest, sweetest guy on the inside. U.B. Brown, I learned so much from. I thought he was great. I was fortunate to be here, and I was fortunate to learn to move on so I could coach at other places, and I got my first start here. And as U.B. Brown said about 3-4 years ago, they were nice to open their hearts and give us a chance to start here. Thank you very much.
Okay, last but not least, arguably the greatest football player in Fairlawn history, no doubt about it in my mind. His many accolades. He went on to Ohio State and starred there, played for the Kansas City Chiefs in the NFL. But the greatest compliment I can give to our next speaker, I grew up in his neighborhood. I was in the 6th grade. And the greatest compliment I can give to Bruce Jankowski is what a nice guy he is. I can remember as a kid, he was always nice to all of us in the neighborhood. So number 28, Bruce Jankowski.
Okay, a couple thoughts up front. For anybody that was here on the first induction, U.B. Brown got up after me, and he said, "I hadn't heard Bruce Jankowski talk that much in 3 years in high school." So I will spare you the pain tonight, okay? I'll kind of net it out. Also, I think I might have proved that short white guys sometimes can go on a little bit, I think so. But I endorse everything everybody said. This is absolutely incredible. You guys are way too kind to me, way too kind. And there you go. Okay. First of all, congratulations to the Hall of Fame committee and what you guys have done in a short period of time. The tour going through this today, and I haven't been here for a few years, but it was spectacular. I mean, it is really neat. And I'm proud to say that I grew up in Fairlawn, so it's absolutely awesome to be back here to see old friends, to make new friends. A lot of the new honorees, these are names I've known that I haven't met. My idol is here. My idol was here the last time, and Mr. Robert Wright. So I get to spend and talk to him. Anyway, and I think, but what is very, very special for me is to come back and see my old teammates, the guys that I played with. And excuse me if I get a little bit funny. I'm on some weird drugs that make me a little more emotional. So anyway, but it's neat that we can all be here together and celebrate this tonight. And I think you guys are right out there and right over there. So I really couldn't be here without the teammates that I had and what they did. So I was just lucky to be here at the right time. Coaches, I've been very lucky. I had some great timing in my career and played for 3 Hall of Fame coaches, and somebody I think made a comment earlier about that. We all know Hubie Brown and what he continued to do. At Ohio State, I had Woody Hayes, another Hall of Fame coach. And with the Chiefs, I had Hank Strand. And ladies and gentlemen, I said this before, I put Frank Devins right up there with those guys. Oh, wait, hold on. I forgot one other thing. Lou Holtz. When I was at Ohio State, Lou Holtz was a coach. So you would think that 4 Hall of Fame coaches, hell, I'd have been a coach or I'd be playing 20 years. But that didn't work out. That was a bomb, wasn't it? So, okay, I told you I'd net this out for you. Okay, I live in Kansas City. And before I forget, I'm going to say I would like to announce my wife, Sharon, who is sitting over with the 66 team. We've been married 41 years. And I consider myself the luckiest guy on the planet. So anyway, I live in Kansas City. I live on a golf course. I love to play golf. My wife and I play a lot of couples golf. We enjoy that. We like to travel. I like to hike. I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro about 4.5 years ago. And it's more of a long hike than a technical climb, but those are some of the things that we like to do. I have a daughter who is a grown daughter who's married to, we have a wonderful son-in-law, and we now have a 4-year-old granddaughter, and that's the best gig on the planet. And I think there's a lot of grandpas out there too. So, and one thing I didn't forget to mention, and I know there's a lot of coaches in the in the audience tonight, but you guys play a huge role in athletes or in people's lives by coaching them. You teach them confidence, you teach them life skills that you can use for the rest of your life. So I think I can speak for all the other athletes. We're indebted to the coaches and what you do. And again, I consider myself to be very, very lucky. I was going to say, I somewhat do some technical presentations. I'm more used to doing that. So if there's anybody that wants to talk about big data, data lakes, or analytics, see me after this, okay? I can probably relate better at that time. But I just want to say thanks again to everybody. It's a great town. I love coming back here, and I will come back more often. I promise, not that you want me back here right away, but I will be back in 2 years. And thanks to everybody for the wonderful treatment. Thank you.
Doing a great job. We're almost to the end. We also want to thank our event sponsor, the class of 1960, the cocktail hour sponsors, Columbia Bank, UB and Claire Brown, the 1970 Fairlawn High School lacrosse team, and the Fairlawn Athletic Club Women's Auxiliary. So thank you to all of our sponsors who helped make this possible. We still have Liz and Karen in the back. They're taking the raffles to 50-50, so we're going to leave that open for a little while longer, and then we'll come back and draw the raffle. So everybody enjoy. The bar is going to stay open, so have a great time. Thank you.